And now, I will teach you how to count all the possible outcomes. So these are the counting techniques on how to count all the possible outcomes in a certain experiment. Okay? So this experiment here, we have how many outcomes when a coin is tossed once. Okay, a coin is tossed once is what we call the experiment. Okay, the experiment. So in counting techniques, we have the two methods. Okay, tree diagram. Actually, we have three methods. First, we have the tree diagram. Okay, you need to illustrate a tree diagram in order to count all the possible outcomes. Okay, our experiment is coin toss. Okay, toss coin. Okay, so the first toss. So we have only first toss. Okay, so in tree diagram, the first toss, it's either you will get heads or tails. Okay, for getting a heads, that is an event, and getting tails is an event. Okay, and these also are the possible outcomes. So how many possible outcomes are there? So the possible outcomes is 2. So we have two possible outcomes, 1 and 2. Okay, next, the second method is the listing method. So you need to list all down the possible outcomes. So we if listing all the possible outcomes, meaning to say you are going to find or you are going to write all the sample space for a certain experiment. So n of s is equal to, and then brace, list all the possible outcomes, that is ht. Okay, then count it. 1, 2. How many possible outcomes? We have 2 outcomes. Okay, in tossing. Okay. Okay. Next. So how about if a coin is tossed twice? Okay, our experiment is toss coin, but you toss the coin twice. Okay, so let us use the tree diagram first. Our first toss, okay, first toss, it is either heads or tails. Okay, on the first toss. How about the second toss? You toss the coin twice. So it is either from the tree diagram, okay, you need to create two lines here. Again. From heads, it can be heads or tails. Wait lang. Let me erase this one. Okay. From tree diagram, from the heads, the first toss, so it will divide into two, it will add, okay, or kakaroon pa siya ng sanga, okay, sanga sa Tagalog. From heads, it will have another branch, which is heads and tails. That is for the second event, or the second toss. And then, from tails also, it will have a branch of heads and tails. So what is the purpose here? Well, why do we need to do this one? Okay, in order for us to count the possible outcomes. Okay, when you toss a coin twice, okay, it can be for the first toss, okay, you will get both heads, right? Okay, how about from the first toss you will get heads, and from the second toss you will get tails. Okay, that is another outcome. Next, how about if your first toss you will get a tails, and then for the second toss you will get heads. That is also a possible outcome. And how about if your first toss is tails and then your second toss is also tails? Okay, that is also a possible outcome. Now, if you count all the possible outcomes, you will get 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that is 4 possible outcomes. So in in an experiment of tossing a coin twice, you will get a 4 possible outcomes. So what are those 4 possible outcomes? It is heads heads, it is or heads tails, or tails heads, or tails and tails. Now, how about the listing method? So we need to list all down the possible outcomes. So this is the listing method. N of S is equal to, put a brace. The first event is if you will get both heads. That is also possible. Heads tails, tails heads, and both tails. So those are the possible outcomes. Okay, so how many? We have 4 possible outcomes if you toss a coin twice. Okay, next, how about how many possible outcomes when a die is rolled once? Okay, in a tree diagram, okay, how many, our experiment here is a die is rolled once. Okay, so the first roll is either, so how many faces we have in a die? Okay, as we all know, we have 6 faces, so that's a cube. 6 faces. It's either 1 when you first roll the die, or there's a possible outcome you will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So those are the possible outcomes when you roll a die. 1, it is possible 3, pwede naman 4, pwedeng 6 ang lumabas when you roll a die once. Okay, so how many possible outcomes are there? So we have 6 here. 6 possible outcomes. Okay, when you roll a die once, you will get 6 possible outcomes. Okay, so in listing method, okay, we can also use a D, stands for die. If you roll a die, so it's possible that 1 you will get, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 you will get. Okay, so we have 6 possible outcomes. How about if you roll a die twice? Okay, in the tree diagram, as you can see here, okay, and you also see, oh, you also saw the final answer, which is 36 possible outcomes. How did I come up with 36 possible outcomes? From a tree diagram, our first roll is this one. You have 6 possible outcomes. Okay, and just like this heads and tails, there's a coin toss. Our second roll, okay, every or each faces of a die will have a branches. Okay, for the first face or yung 1 na face ng die, magkakaroon siya ng sanga na 6 faces, and also 6, yung isang 3, 6 din, yung 4, 6 din, 5, 6 din, and 7 ay 6. So in the second roll. So why do we need to do that? Okay, so in listing method, this is how we list all the possible outcomes in a die, when a die is rolled twice. Okay, for the first possible outcome, okay, it is possible that when you first roll a die, you will get 1. And then in the second roll, you will get also 1. So that is the first possible outcome. Or it can be 1 for the first roll, or the second roll is 2, or it can be 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 1 and 5, and so on and so forth hanggang sa 6. Okay, so if you count all the possible outcomes here, when a die is rolled twice, you will get 36 possible outcomes when a die is rolled twice. Okay, as you all know, there is a shortcut method here. Okay, in counting all the possible outcomes, and this is the fundamental counting principle. Okay, so what is the fundamental counting principle? And that is the multiplication rule. Okay, if an event has m possible outcomes or can be done in m different ways and in m ways, when it has been done, a second event has n possible outcomes can be done in n ways, and a third event has p possible outcomes can be done in p ways, and so forth. Then the total number of outcomes is the product of m and p and so forth. Okay, so uh, just like this one, when how many possible outcomes when a die is rolled twice. Okay, you can actually use the multiplication method. Okay, by looking this one, the multiplication rule. Okay, you can use this one, the multiplication rule. You can count all the possible outcomes using the multiplication rule by just multiplying. The first event, the first roll is how many? We have 6 possible outcomes. And the second roll, we have also 6 possible outcomes. If you multiply them, then you will get 36 possible outcomes. So that is the shortcut method for counting all the possible outcomes. Okay. So the fundamental counting principle is what we call the multiplication rule.